What happens when I leave my husband at a party for a man who flashes borrowed wealth and the mask falls? How can a quiet husband answer public shame without raising his voice? Why did the result land in a courthouse lobby with everyone watching me, not him? Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Ligea Voss. I left my husband at a party because a man in a velvet blazer said he managed money like a king. He ordered the good wine and told me I was built for bigger rooms. I said I agreed. I called my exit bold, not cruel. I told my followers ambition is not betrayal. They sent hearts, I sent smiles. I still think results matter more than vows. Daniel, my husband, did not shout. He asked if our daughter had her reading log. I said yes. He asked if I would be home. I said later. He cooked, folded, and went quiet. I called it control by silence. People said I should respect him. I said, respect follows results. The finance king asked for selfies. I said yes. He hinted at a fund. I said we could talk deals. Then cracks showed. A friend asked if his site was real. I said haters always hate. By the time I checked, the links were smoke. Daniel stayed measured. He gathered simple facts and kept his voice low. He said we would handle things properly. I rolled my eyes. The crowd loved my voice, until the courthouse lobby went still. I set my phone against the sugar canister and filmed the first light in our kitchen. The pale blue windows made the counter look clean, even with crumbs. I said to the camera that strong mornings build strong lives. I tilted the mug so the steam wrote a soft line in the air. I did not show the pile of mail I meant to hide. I liked the frame to be simple, the life around it to be mine alone. Daniel came in with quiet shoes. He asked if Ava's lunch was packed. I said I would do it after the post. He nodded and opened the fridge. He had already cut apple slices and stacked crackers. I said he did not need to perform. He said it was not a performance. He set the small box near my elbow and asked if I wanted carrots added. I laughed and said the city runs on women who multitask. He said the city also runs on clocks. The words were not sharp, they were just flat. Our two mugs sat on opposite counters, not by accident. I liked it that way. He never moved them closer now. He asked if I could pick up Ava after school. I said I might be late because of a meeting. He asked what kind. I said a friend thing. He did not push. He checked his watch and tapped his screen. A calendar reminder slid across. Ferry Atrium, 9:15 a.m. I asked if he was taking the ferry. He said it was a location note. I said okay, and filmed another angle of steam. I made a joke into the camera. I said a smart woman never wastes time on small men. It felt good to say. I paused the recording and looked at him to see if it landed. He tied Ava's shoelace again, even though she was not in the room yet. He always did small prep like that. It made him look careful in a way that could not go viral. I told myself careful is just slow with better branding. My phone buzzed. Kasia, our neighbor, sent a string of fire emojis. She asked if the rooftop crowd from last night wanted a part 2. I said maybe, if the host invited the same investor types. She said I looked like I belonged with high ceilings and clean lines. I told her that is the plan. Daniel rinsed a mug, placed it near the sink, and dried his hands. He said Ava needed her library book. I said I would find it. He walked down the hall to the spare room we called an office, though we almost never used it, the door only half closed. I heard a small whir, and then the soft cough of the printer. A single blank page slid out. He picked it up, looked at it like it meant something, then laid it aside. I asked if the printer was broken. He said he was testing it. His laptop screen showed neat folders, Archive A and Archive B. He moved the cursor, and the windows minimized until only a calm wallpaper remained. I leaned on the doorframe and said he liked to hide things. He said he liked clean work. He asked if we could talk after drop-off. I said I had early content to schedule. He said we could talk later then. I felt annoyed because he did not chase me. I wanted a bigger reaction than steady air. Ava padded out with her ponytail off-center. She asked if we could stop for muffins. I said maybe if she brushed faster. Daniel smiled at her and handed me a hair tie. I twisted it twice and made the ponytail neat. Ava asked if Daddy would read at bedtime. I said I might be out. Daniel said he would be home. She looked at us like we were puzzle pieces that used to touch. Before we left, I slid the mail into a drawer. The drawer stuck and then gave. Inside were tidy folders with labels: household, utilities, bank. I flipped household open, saw tabs, and closed it quickly. I told myself this was overkill. He said later that some people prefer order. I said order kills creativity. He said order keeps bills paid. I told him I have a city job. We are fine. He did not argue. At the door, his phone lit with a missed call marked private. He did not pick up. He set the phone face down. I asked if someone important was trying to reach him. He said he would call back from a quieter spot. I said secrets were greasy. He said privacy is not secrecy. I rolled my eyes because the line sounded like a poster on a break room wall. We walked down the stairwell with Ava between us. She held both our hands until the second landing and then let go to jump the last 2 steps. The stairwell smelled like laundry soap. Kasia cracked her door and waved. She said the party at Gabe's was lit and the velvet blazer guy had asked about me after I left the group. I said he had taste. Daniel said good morning to Kasia and kept going. She looked from him to me and raised her brows like a TV host waiting for the next act. At school, Ava asked if we would both come to the class reading next week. I said it depended on schedules. Daniel said yes unless something urgent came up. She said that answer was a maybe. I started to explain work-life balance. She did not seem impressed. She hugged us both and ran inside. The crossing guard blew the whistle. The gate clicked. I watched my daughter's backpack get smaller and told myself growth was good even when it felt like leaving. Back home, I set up my ring light in the bedroom for a quick clip. The duvet had lines like a hotel bed because Daniel likes corners tucked. I accused him of making the room look like a lobby. He said he likes smooth sheets. I filmed a line about women leading themselves. I added a caption about ambition and pressed post. My heartbeat felt big, but not bad. Daniel stood in the doorway and asked again if we could talk tonight. I said I had a mixer at the community hall after work. He asked who would watch Ava if I stayed late. I said my mother might take her. He said he would confirm with Marta by text. I said I could manage my own mother. He said redundancy is helpful with children. His tone was not rude. It was just sturdy. I went to the kitchen and poured coffee I did not need. The mug was still warm from his hand. Outside, a delivery truck clicked its brakes. Inside, the apartment hummed like a fridge that never rests. Daniel's phone buzzed again on the counter. The screen flashed a calendar block labeled Meeting, Personal. I asked if he had plans. He said he did. I asked if he would share. He said later. I told him later is a kind of no. He did not answer. He walked back to the guest room and closed the door with care, not anger. The latch made a small sound like a coin set on glass. I followed and opened it halfway. He was at the desk, headphones on, speaking softly, the way people speak when they want to be accurate. I heard a word that could have been statement, or maybe just something like that. He noticed me and tapped the keyboard. The window on his screen shrank to a neat square and then vanished. I leaned in and asked if he was recording me. He said he was not. I asked if he was recording anyone. He said he was organizing notes. I asked about what. He said about life. I said life cannot fit in tabs. He said tabs help. Ava's school app pinged with a reminder about a reading log. I typed a heart and pretended I had already checked the book in her backpack. Daniel picked up his keys. A new key on the ring flashed, one I did not recognize. He saw me notice and slipped the ring into his pocket. He said he had to run an errand. I said I hoped it was for something romantic. He smiled without teeth and said he would see us at dinner. I needed the last word, so I filmed a closing shot in the stairwell. I told my followers that low men fear high rooms. I said big plans reward brave hearts. I believed myself for a minute. Then, the hallway went quiet enough to hear the hinge. The bedroom door eased shut like the lid of a box. Unknown number vibrates on his phone as the bedroom door quietly closes. The office smelled like toner and tea. I like mornings there because the glass walls make everyone look clear and tidy. I logged in and told myself to keep my smile steady. I said to the screen that the city depends on people like me. I placed my water bottle just so, like a prop on a set, then checked the payroll queue. Numbers were calm, unlike comments. Kazia had already posted a recap from Gabe's party with a caption that said, "I understood value." I reread the line until it felt like truth. A coworker 2 desks over asked if I had seen the clip. I said, "People love stories about strong women." He said, "The mayor's office sometimes watches trending local accounts." I said we were adults at a private event and not a scandal. He nodded and put on headphones anyway. The inbox filled with routine questions. A missing stipend here, a wrong address there. I typed with clean fingers and imagined velvet blazers, glass rails, and a man who said he managed opportunity. I called it energy. Daniel would call it noise. I could hear him in my head saying reports beat rumors. I pushed that voice away and pressed send. Priya walked by with her tablet held like a thin shield. She asked if we could have a quick word after lunch. I said of course and thanked her for trusting my reliability. She did not smile. She said she liked quiet offices. I said I did too and I was heads down. She kept moving, and the message landed, "Keep my life from touching the city's desk." At mid-morning, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. She asked if Ava had her reading log last night. I said yes and added a heart. She told me she could pick Ava up on Friday if I had plans. I said I might and thanked her. She said she did not care for rooftop air when families were tired. I said air was not a moral issue. She sent a thumbs up that did not feel like agreement. Between calls, I opened the city calendar for room bookings and clicked, then closed. A reflection in the screen showed me as the kind of woman who fits in Grant photos. Tidy hair, careful eyes, light lipstick. The reflection made me think of Daniel at home. That printer cough, the blank page, the labels on his folders. I told myself order is a small religion for people who fear risk. I decided I was brave. An email popped up from facilities about scheduled maintenance in the ferry atrium next week. The word atrium tickled a nerve. Daniel's reminder had said ferry atrium yesterday. I told myself lots of people use that space. I minimized the email the way he minimized his spreadsheets when I walked in. The mimicry made me laugh under my breath. A colleague looked over. I said a spreadsheet finally balanced. He said good job. Kasia pinged the group chat with a screenshot of Colin's profile. The bio claimed he was a fund partner. She asked if the word partner meant owner or vibe. I said it meant leader, of course. She replied with diamond emojis. Another friend sent a rumor that his last deal was only a podcast ad. I said jealous people always dig. I added that results matter more than labels. It is an easy thing to say when you are not checking a ledger. Around 11, I went to the break room. The bulletin board announced retirement cakes and blood drives. Priya stood by the kettle. She asked if my posts were tied to any city logo. I said never, and I always kept my handle private at work. She said tags can still find the building. I said the audience cares about fashion, not flaws. She asked gently if I understood the difference between attention and credibility. I said credibility follows attention because no one hires ghosts. She breathed out through her nose and poured tea. She said we would talk after lunch. I said I was eager for guidance. My voice sounded polite. Inside, I rolled my eyes at the inside of my skull. Back at the desk, the helpline rang with a supervisor from Parks, asking about overtime codes. I explained the steps, and wrote a neat follow-up email with bullet points. I am good at follow-ups. People like me because I write like a person, not a gate. As I hit send, a small CloudSync pop-up blinked on a window in the corner of my phone. File uploaded successfully, only it was not my phone. It was a memory of Daniel's screen from last night. I blinked until the memory faded. Lunchtime slid near. I put on lip balm and studied my phone camera. A tiny smudge on the lens looked like a scratch on my life. I wiped it with my cuff and filmed a 10-second clip from the empty conference room. A soft shot of city skyline through blinds, my voice saying that bold days make simple nights. I did not post it yet. I saved it as draft. I told myself patience is a strategy, not a surrender. Priya messaged me to come by. Her glass cube office made us look like reflections in a jewelry store. She asked if my family was okay. I said we were energetic, and the clips were satire. She said the department prefers not to be involved in personal narratives. I said absolutely, and I am careful. She asked for punctual starts, clean work, and fewer tags anywhere near city property. I said of course. She asked me to remember that payroll touches everyone, and that trust is fragile. I said I understood. She nodded once and dismissed me. It felt like passing a small test and failing a larger one I could not see. After lunch, I scheduled direct deposits and ticked boxes like a machine. I am fast when I want to be. While I worked, my mind drifted to the spare room at home. A clipboard had sat on the desk. I thought I saw the word statement across the top before he flipped it over. Maybe it said something else. Maybe my eyes wanted to see a word that explains a man. I pictured his clean file tree. Archive A, Archive B. I pictured my own camera roll. Selfies, plates, light strips, party rails, Colin's velvet sleeve, Ava's construction paper crown. I told myself both are systems. Near 3, an intern walked by asking who could sign for a courier. I raised my hand. The envelope he carried was for supply, not me. He made a joke about how signatures feel like responsibility. I said responsibility is posture and documentation. The line surprised me because it sounded like Daniel. I smiled anyway, like it had always been my line. A chat from Gabe slid into my phone. Rooftop Part 2 this weekend. He wrote that the finance crowd wanted lives, not slides. He asked if I could help make the vibe. I said I could carry a room. He loved that and sent a gif of a crown. Then Kasia pinged again with a rumor link about Colin. The site looked cheap and angry. I called it a hater blog and closed it before the headline could stick. When the 4 p.m. quiet settled, I walked to the window where the city looked organized from a distance. I asked myself if I believed in Colin's shine, or only in not being bored. I told myself belief is a muscle, and I was in training. I checked the clock and the bus schedule. I would make it home in time to change before the community hall mixer. On my way out, I passed records. Through the glass, I saw Daniel at the co-working lounge across the street, not by plan, but by luck, head down with headphones on. He did not see me. He tapped his keyboard, and a tiny green light on his drive blinked like a heartbeat. A thought came fast. He's building something dull that can move mountains. I told myself mountains are just rocks. I went back to my desk for my bag. At the elevator, my phone vibrated. The group chat lit up with the rooftop invite graphic in neon. At the same time, Priya stepped from her office and raised a hand for me to wait. One gesture pulled me toward glass and policy. The other pulled me toward railings and applause. I did the math of my own choosing and felt very strong for a second. Manager asks for a quick word as the group chat pings the rooftop party tag. Gabe's rooftop had glass rails that made the city look like a stage. The elevator opened to warm air and music that lifted like perfume. People stood in clusters, under string lights, already filming each other. I told myself this was my room. I said to Romy in my head that narrative is stairs, and I was already at the top. Gabe waved from the bar and raised a bottle as if knighting me, I waved back and let the camera in my hand catch the sparkle. Colin arrived in a velvet blazer that matched the night. He asked if I liked Bordeaux or bubbles. I said bubbles made better pictures. He snapped his fingers for a server, and I let him. He asked about my work. I said the city trusted me with numbers, so I wanted to stand near people who made numbers sing. He said he was a partner in a fund. I said that sounded right. He pointed at the skyline and said he could see my next chapter from here. I said he had good eyes. Cassia slid close with her phone already live. She asked if I could tell the audience the party story from last week. I said, people love a sequel. Colin shifted so his watch flashed in the shot. Gabe touched a spoon to a glass and made a small bell. He asked for a toast. I held my flute high and said, ambition keeps love awake. The row near the railing cheered like a wave hitting a wall. Daniel reached the terrace without noise. He was in a clean shirt, no drama. He thanked the hostess and stood near the far heater, where the wind pushed hair from faces. He did not raise a camera. He asked me with his eyes if I needed anything. I said with my posture that I needed applause, not errands. He looked at the floor and then at the edge of the deck, the way you check lines before a step. His watch buzzed. A reminder flashed. Cedar Lot, 3:40 p.m. He pressed the button and the light went dark again. Colin asked if Daniel minded the spotlight. I said Daniel preferred shadows. Colin nodded as if that confirmed a thesis. He asked if I wanted to stand where the skyline formed a crown above my head. I said yes, always. We stepped toward the glass. Cassia moved with us. She asked the chat to drop crown emojis. They did, a flood. Gabe's friends circled. One asked if I was really leaving small vibes for real finance. I said I was leaving boredom. Laughter popped. Someone shouted that I deserved a man with motion. I said I deserved rooms with motion, and a man could learn to keep up. I let my hand rest on the rail, where it gleamed like a runway. My heart beat quick and tidy. Daniel kept his place near the heater. He ordered soda water and tipped. He told the server to have a good night. The server smiled in that way people smile back at calm. His phone lit with a call. The contact showed only an emoji. He looked at the screen, then let it go dark. He slipped the phone away and watched the city instead of the audience. I wanted the audience to see that and judge him slow. Cassia counted down with her fingers for the next clip. I retold the party story with new polish. I said some men count romance in receipts. The crowd booed on cue. I said a woman like me chooses forward, and forward sometimes looks like velvet and glass. Colin lifted his glass beside mine. He asked if Daniel would toast to my future. I said Daniel did not drink to dreams he did not write. Daniel looked at the string lights as if checking the bulbs for breaks. He still did not interrupt. Rooftop air holds words for a second longer than ground air. I could feel my lines float and then fall into phones. I said public proof is kinder than private doubts. That was the cruelest thing I said, and I said it with a smile. A guest near the bar winced and then pretended they had not. Colin leaned in for a photo. He asked if we could frame the champagne against the skyline. I said yes, but with space, because mystery sells. He smelled like aftershave and calculation. He named a hedge fund I had seen on a bus stop ad. I said I loved that name. He said he knew people there. I said I knew myself. He laughed like we were the same animal. Daniel checked his watch again. The heater clicked and steadied. Cassia swung her camera to catch him leaving. He was not leaving. He was moving to the other side of the rail to let a server pass. He nodded when she thanked him. I wanted him to look embarrassed. He did not give me that gift. Gabe lifted the spoon again. He asked me to say one more line for the story. I said, respect follows results. The crowd shouted the words with me like a chorus. Colin whispered that he liked women who can teach a room. I said rooms want truth more than men. I meant it only then. Near the bar, two guests argued softly about a link on their phones. One said he could not open it. The other said the site was down often when lawyers sent emails. I did not ask what they were reading. I leaned closer to Colin instead and asked him where he kept his office. He said everywhere. I said that was a good answer on social, and he smiled like it was enough. I crossed the deck to use the restroom and fix a hair strand. In the mirror, I saw a woman who could bend a story. I told myself I was making life bigger for all of us. When I returned, Daniel stood near the elevator, not blocking, just there. He asked if I needed a ride home later. I said I had options. He said Ava would sleep at normal time. I said the child needed to learn flexibility. He said flexibility does not mean fatigue. I called that a poster line and walked past him. Kazia wanted a finale. She asked for a moment near the elevator doors, where the city framed me like a film still. I nodded. The chant began without planning, one side of the deck calling for a toast, the other side echoing. Colin stepped in as if he had trained for this. He asked the crowd to raise glasses to fearless wives. I raised mine. Daniel set his soda down. He said something to the host, quick and low. The host nodded like a person who just heard a safety rule and agreed. The elevator bell chimed. It sounded like a cue. Several phones lifted and pointed at the doors and then at me. I thought of the spare room at home and pictured the guest bed this morning, its cover smoothed, but with a small dip near the edge, like someone had sat and measured time. I thought of the single USB I had seen under the taxes folder last week with a date written clean. I told myself none of it meant anything public. I took my place by the glass and lifted my chin. Colin whispered that I was born for height. I said I knew. The doors slid open behind Daniel. He did not step in. He stood aside. He asked if I was ready to leave or to stay. I said I was ready to be seen. The room agreed with my answer because it was easier. A chant for a toast rises as multiple phones tilt up to record near the chiming elevator. The community center hall smelled like sheet cake and floor polish. Streamers dropped color across cheap lights. Gabe had booked it for a friend's birthday, and he said the investor crowd liked to mingle when nobody expected glam. I told myself I was doing a public service. I brought mood. Colin arrived without the velvet blazer this time. He wore a fitted jacket and a grin that looked glued on. He asked if the DJ could lower the volume when he spoke later. I said people listen when money speaks. He said people always listen to me. I liked that line, even if it felt borrowed. Kids ran in loops. I kept my eyes on the adult ring. Kazia hovered by the punch bowl with her phone half lifted. She asked if we could do a quick clip about fearless choices. I said fearless looks better with music. The DJ faded a track. Gabe clinked a glass with a spoon. He asked for a toast to big moves. I raised my cup and said big moves need big minds. A few heads turned. I wanted Daniel to be there to see it. He was not. I told myself absence is a comment, and I got to write the caption. Colin started his story. He said he had a pipeline of deals. He said he had partners in 3 cities. Someone near the back asked which cities. He said the usual hubs and winked. The wink felt heavy. Another guest said he had tried to look up Colin's shop today and got a page error. Colin laughed and said servers hate success. I said haters hate success. The room split into people who believed and people who were bored. I decided to believe because it was useful. While he talked, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. She asked if Ava had finished her reading log. I said yes, and added a sun emoji. She replied that she could keep Ava overnight if the event ran late. I said maybe. She added a heart, then nothing else. I slipped the phone into my bag and looked at Colin's hands. They waved like he was painting air. I told myself air still counts if the camera loves it. On my way to refill punch, I ran into Sienna by the door. She had Ava with her. Sienna asked if we had a minute later. I said we could message. She said later turns into never. I said that sounded like a poster at a clinic. She did not laugh. Ava asked if I could tie her shoelace tighter. I knelt and tied it tighter. Sienna watched the knot and said calm helps kids breathe. I said energy does too. She said there are kinds of energy that do not spark fires. We ate cake on flimsy plates. Gabe pushed me toward the mic again. I told the crowd that ambition sets a family free. A couple near the wall traded a look that meant, "Who pays for the chain?" Colin lifted his cup and shouted that I was proof that strong wives build strong futures. I soaked it in. The DJ brought the volume up again. Kazia filmed a slow pan of the room and caught a slice of my smile. At the end of the party, I checked my screen on the way out and saw a preview slide down, then vanish. It looked like a thread named follow-up on Daniel's phone earlier, only now it was on mine, from him asking about bedtime. I tapped through and found his simple message. He asked if Ava should come home now or sleep at Marta's. I said we were fine here for 1 more hour. He wrote back, okay, no lecture, no scene. It annoyed me that he stayed calm when a storm would have given me a better story. We met Daniel and Marta at a family restaurant afterward. The long table had napkins folded like boats. Sienna sat near the middle with a straight back. Daniel stood to pull out a chair for Ava and tucked in the boat napkin near her water glass so it would not tip. Marta asked if the event was joyful. I said it was inspiring. She said inspiration should not leave a child tired. I said Ava had energy. Ava said she wanted spaghetti. Daniel asked if she wanted fruit too. She said yes. He signaled the server with 2 fingers and a smile that looked like practice. It was gentle. I told myself gentleness is a mask men use when they lack drive. Menus closed. The talk ran to easy things at first: school art, weather, a new bus line. Then Sienna looked at me without heat. She asked if the post could stop for a while. I said visibility is healthy. She said children do not need visibility. They need routines. I said routines are cages. Daniel asked if we could focus on dinner for now. I said dinner would end. The internet lives. Marta touched my wrist and asked if I remembered how quiet used to feel. I said quiet is for people who gave up. The table went still the way rooms do when the air shifts. Ava swung her feet. She asked if Daddy would sleep in our bedroom soon. The question landed on the breadbasket. Daniel said we were giving each other quiet to be kind. I said we were busy. Ava looked at me with her child math and did not nod. Sienna breathed in like she had words and then chose not to use them. The server arrived with plates and saved the moment. I excused myself to wash my hands and peeked at the mirror. My face looked like someone who wins edits. On my way back, I passed the hostess stand and saw Cassia angling her phone from near the door. She pretended to check her lipstick and filmed between 2 people. I saw the flash blink in the glass and decided to ignore it. It is easier to be offended by a reaction than to be honest about a cause. Back at the table, I took a quick picture of the food for a story I did not post yet. Daniel's phone sat face down near his elbow. A tiny text preview popped up and faded before I could read it. I caught only the outline of a word that might have been statement. He turned the device over and put it away. Marta asked him a question about a school form. He said he had it organized. I watched his face and saw no triumph. He was just sure. When the check came, Daniel reached for it without movement in his jaw. Gabe's earlier toast replayed in my head. I felt a flare of irritation that my husband remained boring while Colin glittered. Then I remembered the guest near the cake asking about blocked sites. The memory nagged. I shoved it into a corner with the other boring things: labels, tabs, car keys. I told myself I would solve the mood with a better clip later. We left the restaurant in 2 groups. Sienna walked with Daniel and Ava. I walked with Kasia. She asked if the crowd loved Colin. I said they loved confidence. She asked if confidence pays rent. I said views pay now. She snorted and said her cousin tried that and came home. I told her my brand is different. A breeze lifted a napkin from a patio table and sent it skittering across the sidewalk. Cassia chased it with her camera, like even trash could be content. At home, the hallway smelled like new paper. Inside, The guest room door was open. I stepped in as if I owned it. The desk held binders labeled home, auto, bank. The utilities binder was thicker than it should be. An unsealed envelope lay in the outbox like a tongue. In the corner, the shredder's plug hung ready. I heard a low voice in the hall and found Daniel with headphones on, speaking softly, steady. He saw me and tapped his screen. The call ended. He asked if I needed the router password for a stream tonight. I said I was fine on data. He nodded. Ava padded in with damp hair from a bath. She asked if we could all read together, like before. Daniel said yes, and he picked up her library book. I said I had to check a message. She lowered the book slowly. I felt the look from Sienna, even though she was not there. It was the shape of disappointment carried by a sister for her brother. I walked to the balcony for a breath and checked my phone. A new message thread sat at the top of Daniel's chat with a title I had seen that morning on his lock screen, Follow-up. I did not open it. My own screen lit up with a rumor link about Colin again. I told myself haters work overtime. I closed it and staged a small night shot with the city lights. When I came back in, Ava's voice carried from the bedroom, small and patient. She asked if Daddy would sleep in the other room forever. The word forever snagged between my ribs. I said we were busy grown-ups. Daniel said we were working on kindness. Ava asked if kindness means doors. No one answered fast enough. Ava's question hangs in the doorway as Kazia's camera flash blinks on the sidewalk below. Daniel worked from a co-working lounge that faced the transit hub. The windows made him look like he was inside a sensible aquarium. I walked in with a smile I use for city counters and said I was nearby. He took off his headphones and asked if I needed the car later. I said I might have a brunch with investors. He asked if Ava's reading time would stay the same. I said routines were ideas, not laws. He nodded, turned his laptop a hair, and I saw a spreadsheet open with initials and dates in tidy columns. I stepped closer to read. He minimized it so fast the screen showed only the calm wallpaper. I said, hiding is not sexy. He said, privacy protects order. The sentence fell like a small weight on a scale. A tiny pop in his corner read, file uploaded successfully before the window disappeared. I asked if he worked for the city on the side now. He said he was organizing life. The word sounded like a broom moving across a clean floor. I asked if we could be normal and stop acting like a meeting. He said meetings help families. He kept his voice soft, the way nurses keep lights low at night. A calendar block slid across his phone. Meeting. Personal. He tapped it away. I told him about the new plan. Colin wanted a riverside shoot to inspire the next crowd. Daniel asked if I would keep Ava out of the frame. I said, children help engagement. He said, children are not content. I called him dramatic. He pointed at the clock and asked if I could text exact return times. I said curfews are for teenagers. He said coordination is not a curfew. That line annoyed me because it was a balanced sentence and left no easy door to push. At the riverside, late sun painted everyone kind. Colin arrived out of breath and called the light perfect. He asked if we could do a walking shot with the bridge behind me. I said yes and adjusted my jacket. Kazia drifted near with her phone lifted to chest height like a soft weapon. Daniel and Ava walked past at a distance, holding a paper bag that smelled like warm bread. Ava waved and asked if the ducks would come. Daniel crouched and pointed at the water. He did not look at us. He had his own frame. Colin asked if Daniel felt small near money. I said Daniel felt small near ambition. Colin laughed and said he liked direct women. He suggested a caption about leaving dead weight. I said the phrase was harsh and catchy. We did 3 takes, one with my chin higher. People watched from the path the way birds watch other birds. Cassia did a slow pan for her stories. I felt the room forming around me, even though we were outside. We passed near Daniel on the return loop, close enough to hear the paper bag crinkle. He asked if Ava would be with me at bedtime. I said maybe later. He said bedtime has hands on a clock for a reason. I said genius ignores clocks. He looked at Ava instead of me and said they would feed the ducks and then go home. Ava asked if we all could go. I said I had a shoot. Colin checked his watch in a way that suggested he checked nothing. Daniel's face did not move. We finished filming as the sky cooled. Kasia drifted off to chase reflections in a puddle. Colin said he had an investor brunch in the morning and needed to rest. I liked how the sentence felt expensive. I said I would post a teaser by night. He winked and said, "Winners know timing." I said timing loves me. He hugged air near my shoulder and left. I watched him go and felt a small, annoying thought. A brunch with investors on a Tuesday. I pushed the thought away like lint. In the parking garage, the light was sickly and honest. I framed myself against painted lines for a moody clip and practiced a sentence about choosing forward. Daniel and Ava reached the elevator as I hit record. Ava asked about the echo. I told her to make a small ooh, and she laughed when it bounced. Daniel thanked me for keeping the sound low around her ears. His politeness made me want to break something easy. The elevator opened. A neighbor held the door with one foot while looking at his phone. Daniel thanked him. As he adjusted his keys, I saw a new, unfamiliar key on the ring. Slim, silver, not for our doors. It gave a bright clink when it hit the others. I asked what it opened. He said he had added access for something practical. I asked if practical had a name. He said later. He checked his phone. A photo app flashed for a second with a thumbnail that looked like a document. He covered the screen with his palm and slipped it away. I said, "Secrets rot." He said, "Records last." I asked if he understood that I was building a brand that could pay for everything. He said a brand cannot pick up a child from school if the bus is late. I told him he was making me the villain by staying quiet. He said he would not be loud for a camera. I said he was choosing to look better than me. He said he was choosing to be steady. He did not try to win the sentence. He just placed it down and let it sit. I stepped close enough to blur boundaries and asked if he had read the rumor on Colin. He said he reads little that does not serve the child. The phrasing was like a locked drawer. I laughed and said I would become bigger than rumors. He said rumors do not build law. The word law made my skin prickle. I said he loved rules more than me. He said love is not in conflict with rules when children watch. I called him a poster again because it was easier than hearing him. His phone buzzed with a silent vibration. He glanced down. The subject line on a mail preview started with the word statement. He clicked the screen off without reacting. A browser window flickered up and vanished, but I caught the top of a tab, something like notary near me. I told him he was petty. He said he was thorough. I told him thorough is another word for cold. He said thorough is another word for ready. Ava tugged his sleeve and asked if we were fighting. I said we were discussing. Daniel said we were planning. Ava asked what planning means. He said it means a map. She said maps help you get home. He nodded. She smiled like a child who solved something without paperwork. I wanted to make a joke, but could not find the shape of it. Kasia texted from the ramp, asking if the investor brunch would be open to cameras. I typed yes and felt powerful for 1 second. A second text arrived from an unknown number. The preview showed only a first name I did not know and a line about a wire fraud article. I deleted the preview before it opened and told myself people love to drag winners. I told Daniel I would go bigger if he kept acting like a robot. He said there were boundaries now. I asked who set them. He said we did together when we became parents. I said I did not remember signing a treaty. He said he remembered promises. The elevator chimed. The sound made the air crisp. I moved to block him from stepping in, because control feels like standing in a doorway. I asked if he planned to embarrass me with some paper trick. He said he did not plan embarrassments. He planned safety. I said I would not be lectured. He looked at me with a calm that didn't wobble. He said he would handle it properly. I scoffed and asked what that even meant. He repeated the word, steady. The doors began to close, gold light cutting across the floor. He says, level and calm, I will handle this properly, as the elevator doors slide towards shut. The courthouse lobby smelled like stone and rain. I arrived looking for Colin. He never came. Daniel stood with Sienna near the directory, speaking quietly to a man in a navy blazer. The man asked my name. I said yes. He handed me a packet and stated service. Divorce petition, temporary financial and possession orders, a parenting schedule effective today. Security watched. Marta held Ava's hand by the door. Daniel said we would follow the schedule. I said this was petty. The lobby kept my words and gave nothing back. Papers served, temporary orders read aloud, footsteps pause, air goes still.